Good morning. It's freezing. Let's start, Mr. Sily. Before this reading book, guess what kind of differences between this tree and that tree? Can you see this? There are two trees. Mr. Sily lives in a nonsense land, which is a very funny place to live. You see, in nonsense land, everything is as silly as can be. In nonsense land, the trees are pink and the grass is blue. Isn't it silly? In nonsense land, duck wear a hat. And do you know how birds fly in nonsense land? No, they don't fly forward. They fly backwards. It really is a very silly place indeed. Which of course is why Mr. Sily lived there. Mr. Sily, in fact, lives in quite the silliest looking house you have ever seen in your whole life. Have you ever seen a sillier looking house than that? Look at this unbalanced house. Now the particular story is all about Nonsense Cup. You see, in Nonsense Land, each year they hold a competition and the cup is awarded to whoever has the silliest idea of the year. Mr. Sily has never won the cup, but each night, lying in his bed, he dreamed about winning it. In order to win the Nonsense Cup, Mr. Sily realized that he would have to think up something remarkably silly. He pondered over the problems one morning at breakfast. Incidentally, you have been interested to know what Mr. Sily was having for breakfast. He was having a cup of coffee, which he put a spoonful of marmalade into. After that, he had a cornflake sandwich, and to finish, he had a boiled egg. But being Mr. Sily, he ate the shell as well. What a stupid eating though. Isn't that a silly breakfast? Yeah. Anyway, this particular breakfast time, Mr. Sily was thinking how to win that cup. He remembers 2 years ago, a cup was won by Mr. Ridiculous. He won by wallpapering his house, which sounds very ordinary, but in fact, Mr. Ridiculous had wallpapered the outside of his house. And Mr. Sily remembered last year when Mr. Foolish won the cup. Mr. Foolish, who was a friend of Mr. Sily's, has won the cups by inventing a car. It was quite a normal car, apart from one thing. It had a square wheel. Isn't that silly? Mr. Sily thought, but it was no good. He even has another cup of coffee with marmalade, but that didn't help either. So he decided to take a walk. Off he went, leaving his front door open so that he wouldn't have burglars when he was out. On his walk, Mr. Sily met a chicken wearing a Wellston's boot and carrying an umbrella. Wouldn't it be silly if you didn't wear Wellington boots and carrying an umbrella? He said to the chicken. Meow, said the chicken, because animals in Nonsense Land don't make the same noises as they do in your country. On his work, Mr. Sily met a worm wearing a top hat, monocle, and old screw tie. Wouldn't it be silly if you didn't wear a top hat, a monocle, and the old screw tie? He said to the worm. Quack, quack, said the worm. Mr. Sily met a pig wearing a treasure and a bowler hat. Wouldn't it be silly if you didn't wear a treasure and a bowler hat? He said the pig. Meow, said the pig. Isn't that silly? It was the middle of Mr. Sily's walk that he had his ideas. It was a beautifully silly idea, quite the silliest idea he ever had. He hurried into town and bought himself a pot of paint and paintbrush. The day of the great offering, the nonsense cup arrived. The huge crowd assembled in the city square to see who was going to win the cup. The king of Nonsense Land mounted a specially built platform. Ladies, gentlemen, he said to the crowd in the city square, it's my pleasure today to award the Nonsense Cup to whoever has had the silliest idea of the year. One of the silliest ideas of the year, continued the king, is by the mother, the farmer. He had managed to grow, of all things, a square apple. Look at this! The crowd clapped as the square apple was held up by the mother of everybody to see. He felt sure he was going to win. However, said the king, the mother's face fell. We have had an even sillier idea entered by Mr. Nimperpur. It was a teapot, quite the silliest teapot there is ever seen. The crowd broke into thunderous applause. I therefore have a great pleasure, announced the king, is presenting the nonsense cup to. Just then he looked up and stopped in astonishment. Now, in the middle of city squares, there is a tree. It was always been there, and it was at the tree that king was looking in astonishment. What, he cried, has happened to that tree? Everybody turned to look. The tree has green leaves, bright green leaves, not pink leaf like all the tree in Nonsense Land, but green. There was amazed silence. It was me, peeped up Mr. Sily. I painted all the leaves green last night when you were asleep. A green tree? Exclaimed the king. Who ever heard of a green tree? A green tree, shouted the crowd. How silly! And they started applause. Mr. Sily smiled modestly. The king held up his hand. I think, he said, that this is the silliest idea I have ever heard of. Therefore, I award the nonsense cup to Mr. Sily. The crowd cheered and cheered. Mr. Sily went pink with the prize, and a bird perched high up in the branches of the silly greens looked down. Oof, it said, and flew up backward. What a funny land. Thank you.